While the clock is ticking, today is the deadline for the government to release its last batch of documents about President Kennedy's assassination here in Dallas.
Yeah, this has been a lot of anticipation on this one, but it has been a waiting game all day long. The question right now, will we actually see anything before this day is out? Let's head out to our team in our Dallas newsroom, headed up by senior political reporter Jason Whiteley. Jason, we've just been sitting and waiting all day long and still nothing.
We have, Jason. That's the main question. Will we see anything? You know, it's 4:03 Dallas time here. It's 5:03 in D.C. where these decisions are being made. It appears increasingly unlikely we're going to see any of these records released like the law stated they should be on this day 25 years later. No records out today. Ferris Rookstool is our resident JFK historian. That's kind of what we tease you as here since we've been talking to you, at least since the 50th anniversary back in 2013. Ferris, are you surprised that here we are at 4 o'clock and haven't seen a single thing, not even a peep from the National Archives?
No, I'm not surprised at all. As a matter of fact, there was concern about whether uploading 5 million records to the web on the National Archives server was going to be problematic because they didn't know if the IT could support all these people all over the world trying to harvest these 5 million records all at the same time. And
here's the web page right here too. We keep watching the main page, archives.gov, which is a National Archives and Records Administration's main website. They have this on their main web page, so you can watch it along there too. See, it says stay tuned there in the gray bar for updates on the JFK assassination records collection. You mentioned 5 million records. That's what the entire collection represents. Correct. Most of that is already out. This is just 3,800 pages that we haven't seen.
It's 88% was released in full. Another 11% was released with redactions, which is approximately 30,000 records. The last remaining records is approximately 3,100 pages, and those records they have deemed to be under review prior to the president saying yes, they can either go or no, they cannot.
And President Trump tweeted, he's tweeted twice now, that subject to further information, these records would be out there. We have yet to see that, so we're under the impression that there are some agencies, perhaps the CIA, perhaps the State Department, FBI, whomever it may be, that has some concerns about releasing these.
Right, and they have all the way up till midnight to petition the president and say we want these records withheld, and then it's up to the White House, to the president himself, to say either overruling these agencies or actually standing with the agencies and agreeing to what they want withheld.
We have another 8 hours of watching this webpage, perhaps longer.
Could be longer.
Not releasing this today, if it doesn't come out, if these remaining documents don't come out, doesn't that fuel these conspiracy theories even more?
It does, but I've been patient. I've been around this story for at least most of my entire adult life. I've been around it for the 25 years that all these people have been waiting for these records to come out. Another week, another month, another 6 months, whatever it turns into, if it even goes to litigation with courts, is fine with me. But I would prefer to have all of the files completely released as soon as possible.
The National Archives says that, let me get the exact wording that the National Archives uses. It says that it anticipates that the records, these remaining 3,100 records, will be tangential to the assassination events. What do you think we're going to see in there?
It's probably going to be records that were post-1963. So these would be 1990s records, not part of the initial core records that we think of, like the initial investigation. These are going to be agencies, sources and methods debate over whether or not to release actual information that could still be used today. In other words, are we still using the same sources and methods in foreign countries that would violate some sort of an agreement that we have standing to this day with those countries?
But 53 years later, we have all types of new heads of state. We have the internet. We have all this stuff. How could this still be relevant?
I asked the same question, and it's kind of pathetic in a certain sense to think that we're still using 54-year later old technology. I mean, if we're gathering in a very primitive way, 54 years the same way, then we haven't advanced very far. But if that is proven to be very effective, which obviously the intelligence agencies are saying that we're still using that, I'm in favor of saying, well, okay, we'll try to protect them as much as possible, but let's release as much as we can.
So let's back up and give viewers just an idea of how all this works. So in 1992, Congress passed a law that essentially said from this date forward, October 26th of 92, well, 25th or 26th, I believe.
It's the 26th is when President Bush signed it into law. 26,
Congress said, you know what, all these records, 5 million records, must be released within 25 years. Why are we down at the deadline here and still have 3,100 that have yet to be released?
I made a quote in 1993. I said, and I can still remember this quote like yesterday. I said, people are forever saying that President Kennedy was killed as a result of a governmental conspiracy. The truth of the matter is the government's far too inept to pull it off. If we are now down to the 0 hour on the actual day, and we haven't got an update from the National Archives as a matter of media, as a national and international news story. We haven't gotten any updates from the archives. We haven't gotten a tweet from the president. This begs to question, okay, really, what is going on? I mean, are they going to ride this all the way up to 11:59 tonight? Is this part of a drama piece to try to say, you know, you're going to find out everything right before the stroke of midnight? We don't know.
Let's go to one of our questions from a Facebook viewer from earlier today. This is from Vicki Robinson. She's asking a pretty good question. How do we know that all the records will be released? Just trust in the government? Will tapes that they took be given back? What do you think about that?
Well,
will all these be released? Because I understand there's still going to be some that are held back.
That's the problem. I mean, you know, putting your trust, you know, the old saying like President Reagan used to say, you know, I'm from the government, I'm here to help you. This is, it would be the same thing as I'm with the government and I'm here to release the documents. This is going to be the big question. Is everything been released? Who is going to certify that all these records have in fact been released? How are we going to know, for example, in the Dallas field office of the FBI, where I worked in headquarters, FBI headquarters, that in fact that other things that pertain to the JFK assassination, which were done outside the scope of this law, are not being withheld by the individual field office or other offices?
You know, Vicki Robinson brings up a good point, because of the 5 million records, there are still going to be some tax records that aren't going to be released.
Right.
What does that mean? Is Marina's social security number in there? She's still alive. She lives in Rockwall.
That's correct.
What's in there that can't be released?
Well, that's it's due to existing privacy laws. It's not JFK related. It's actually due to existing privacy laws. I argue, like with Ruby's tax returns, I was involved in the civil proceeding that took place in probate court, where Earl Ruby, his brother, was trying to take back the property. The IRS came in
from Jack Ruby's estate,
right? And the IRS came in and tried to place their lien, showing Jack owed all these back taxes. So they've already given up. They've already exposed his tax information in a probate matter. So there should be no problem, at least releasing Jack Ruby's tax returns.
Will we ever have a sense of closure?
I don't think so, because with closure, it's hard to say it's officially closed in the sense of, well, are all the production records still, you know, out there? Is there still information that someone has not found? I think it's going to be hard in the collective consciousness of people to say it's officially over with. I think we'll be talking about this long after I'm gone.
And you bring up a good point, too. Who certifies that all 5 million records have been released? The Assassination Review Board doesn't exist anymore.
It doesn't exist. Do you say to the National Archives, okay, everything in your possession is the head archivist? Is the archivist going to certify? Are they going to release a document that says all these records that are in our possession, which follow under the scope of this law, have been actually released? That's a question that we'll have to find out from the archives.
Before we went on, you had a really good point, and that is, if the president is withholding documents, and at this point we don't know yet if this is a bureaucratic issue, if they're just trying to upload these documents, or if there are some agencies indeed that have some concern about releasing them. If the president, though, withholds any of these documents, we don't yet know how long that will last and whether he can unilaterally do that indefinitely, right?
Right, and the powers of the presidency, it doesn't put a clock and say, okay, this is the timeline for which the president can order these. I don't even know the mechanics legally, since this is a law, whether challenges would be made in court, or if this is a unilateral thing that he signs and says, okay, we agree with that.
We've reached out to Judge Thunheim, who is a federal judge in Minnesota. to ask him that question. We're waiting to hear back exactly what he's going to say on that. This conversation with Ferris, who is our go-to guy on all things JFK, it's going to continue on Facebook Live now. So if you have your phone handy, or your laptop, or your tablet, go ahead and pick that up and go to our Facebook page there, and you'll see our Facebook Live starting here in just a moment. Back to you guys.